Hello and welcome. It is Tuesday, 11 o'clock, probably my most favorite time of the week. That is because I get to do the Better Business Place show and interview, and I'm very, very fortunate that at the very, very final hour, my guest came on board, and he's very, very special. He's been in my space for a long time. So I wanted to ask you this. Have you ever struggled with just getting all your stuff done, and you don't really have the means to bring on other team members yet into your world, but you want to learn how to increase your sales and you don't know other alternatives? Well, my next guest, Cameron Roberts, who I'll welcome on now, is a special person in that particular space because he automates a lot of that process. So good morning and welcome to Cameron.
Hey, Glenn, thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Mate, often I'm very surprised that big people like yourself in terms of stature and online sort of world agree to doing, my little show. So I'm really lucky to have you. I admire you for a long time, mate.
Yeah.
So let me just give everyone a bit of a bio on Cameron before I get into the interview. Cameron's very much a strategic marketing consultant, business advisor, #1 best-selling author, podcaster, speaker on business and success and marketing. Now, I've personally known Cameron for a while. I've attended his workshops, and I've even brought guests along to those workshops. And every time I have, there's been a ton of value, and I have no doubt that Cameron's going to do exactly that today. So for those people that don't know you, Cameron, why don't you just give us a little bit of a blurb?
Yeah, look, I actually come from a professional sports coaching background, Glenn. I used to be a professional swimming and triathlon coach. Mm-hmm. And in a 7-year coaching career, I coached over 130 state medalists and 50 national medalists. And then after 7 years, we decided to open our own, my wife and I decided to open our own swim school. So that swim school became very successful. So we went from coaching, high-level athletes and placing people on Australian Olympic teams right back to teaching babies how to swim. And what we discovered really quickly was the power of creating a niche and building a tribe. And, the word building a tribe these days is thrown around a lot, but we created it when there was no internet. You've got to remember, Glenn, this is going back 25 years ago. Facebook wasn't even invented when we had the swim school. But mm-hmm. And we didn't call it a tribe back then, we called it a community. So mm-hmm. what we did was we created a niche, and the niche was we were going to be the best at teaching babies how to swim in the Hunter region, and we were going to be leaders in our community. And we stood by that, and that was one of the things that we did really well. And that business grew. And then after 2 years, we opened a gym. And so at one time, we had 1,500 clients each and every week and 35 staff to deal with. We did that process for about 7 more years. And then towards that 7-year period or the 10-year period that we had those two businesses and looking after those, the teams within the teams, mm-hmm. I started to get my own swim school clients and my own gym clients ask me for help in their business. So we're talking about mums and dads who are bringing their children to swimming lessons, and they would go, "Hey, is this a franchise?" Or they'd come up to the gym and they go, "Hey, I didn't know this wasn't a franchise." Or they'd come up to the gym and they go, "Hey, I was down at the swim school. I didn't know you owned this gym as well," because they were two different businesses. Or I'd be at the swim school and someone would walk in like a gym client and they go, "Hey, what are you doing here? Oh, is this your business as well?" Right? And, the conversations would then start up, and then they would have a business. And so I started to help my own swim school and business clients with their business and their marketing. And so I got to a stage where I had 6 or 7 business clients, and I thought, hang on a minute, I've got another business here. And so I started to pursue that more seriously. And then we cashed out of the traditional bricks and mortar business. And for a lifestyle change and a financial decision, decided to take on full-time consulting. And it's served me well ever since. And one of the things that I believe makes me a really great consultant or coach is my background in professional sports coaching. Because as a professional sports coach, I was never egotistical about, it was never about me. I was very successful in my own right as an Ironman triathlete. So for me, it wasn't about my kudos as a coach. It was more about what could I do to help these athletes? what can I do to help them achieve their goals, and that was always my passion, and that was always my driving force. And so today the same's true. Like, I'll go over and above for my clients to get them the results, because that's my DNA, that's my makeup. I'm a coach, and I just want to see other people be successful. And so that's where I am today, Glenn. I help business owners, entrepreneurs, industry experts, other coaches and consultants achieve their goals in sales and their goals in marketing by, giving them the right strategies that's going to help them, be successful, scale, and have more profitable businesses.
Okay. So that's a lot right there and then. So I'm going to go back on a couple of things in that, Cam. When you started this school, and you really niched down, where did you learn that from? Where did you learn that you were going to be the best kids swim school?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Glenn. And no one's ever asked me that before, by the way. And I've had a lot of interviews, so that's a really good question. I actually learned that process from being a swimming coach, believe it or not. Now, a lot of people online teach that these days, right? But I learned that as a swimming coach, because as a swimming coach, I identified that not all athletes were equal. So you had some athletes that were good at breaststroke, some athletes were good at butterfly, and the athletes that were good at butterfly, there's even athletes that are good at 200 butterfly but not 50 butterfly, because they just don't have the speed to sprint, or they might be a bit shorter, so they need to swim a bit longer, right? So as a swim coach, I recognized that very early on in my coaching career, that there's an athlete who's good at 200 fly, and you know what? He or she should just stick to 200 fly. There's an athlete that's good at 100 breaststroke and shouldn't be racing the 50, 100, 200 breaststroke, 400 free, 400 IM, 200 IM, right? They should focus all their training and all of their energy just on the 200 breaststroke, because that's what they're really good at. So I developed that as a swimming coach. And so when we went into business, I looked at that as a coaching gig, right? And I said, well, hang on a minute. We can teach everything from babies right up to squad swimming and aqua aerobics and public swimming and adult learn to swim, or we can be good at really one thing. And so we then narrowed down based on that philosophy of what I adapted in coaching, and created one of the best baby programs at the time, certainly in the Hunter region and arguably in New South Wales. But what was interesting about niching down like that in such a way was it actually helped the next program above that. So it wasn't like we only taught babies.
I was going to say, now I want to stop you there, because I mean, a lot of people don't get this. They try to go very, very broad to start off with, right? Which means that their marketing it's got no depth to it. All right. So from my space, when I teach people about referrals, people can't refer you because there's no depth, or there's no story, there's no conversation to it. Whereas what you just heard Cameron say, I mean, listen, this was not what I was expecting out of the interview, but is such a really good point that, if it's okay, Cameron, we'll spend a little bit of time here, is that if you're a business owner right now and you're struggling, that's what you've got to be able to do. You've got to be able to identify what's something that you're really strong in, and that's how we're going to dominate. And then, as Cameron's just starting to allude to, you will pick up the others. Don't worry about it, all right, at that stage. But you need to be really known for one thing. So you guys got known as really teaching the babies and infants really learn how to swim, and your other programs, your dolphins and your seniors and your squads and all that, they started taking off as well.
Yeah. So we would even say that on the phone to people when we answered the phone. We would say, welcome to Lake Macquarie's most award-winning swim school. Now, at that point, we did win all of the awards, but even before we started winning awards, we used to answer the phone as, welcome to Lake Macquarie's leaders of infants aquatics, right? And that's our first week we used to say that, because we knew that we wanted to be that, right? And we built that team, we built that training. So like you said, Glenn, it's super important. But even though we were the leaders in the infants, the next group up was very strong as well. So from the 3 to 8 years was quite strong as well in the learn to swim. And we really only focused on those two areas. So it was from 3 to 6 months up till about 10 years, and that was our target market. And that's what we did really well. We didn't do squads, we didn't do acroaerobics, we didn't do adult learn to swim. Could we have done that? Yeah, we could have. There was always space in the pool during the day, but we decided that we wanted to be the best at that particular area.
They hear the saying "fake it till you make it." I think a lot of people have actually heard that.
Yep.
This is a great example of it's not fake it till you make it, because
No,
that comes across as really,
no. Yeah,
really
no, it's not at
shallow.
all.
But
Yeah,
the thinking behind that is you have to be that person before you're
correct.
physically able to do that. So you heard Cameron say they answered the phone that way. Were that way yet? No, but that was their intention, and so
Yeah, but we
everything that
acted that
they
way.
did. That's right.
Yeah,
Everything that they
yeah,
did was about being that way. And then that's what they become. People move along that way.
yeah,
That's a fantastic
absolutely.
insights.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had already that in your mindset, and then you started carrying it onto the gym, and then you started carrying that onto some of your clients' businesses. You know, the mums
Yeah,
and dads would come in and say, hey, we run a tire shop, or we run a mechanic
yeah,
shop or whatever. And that's,
exactly.
can you help us
Yep.
with us? So at that
Yeah,
stage, you weren't really planning on having a coaching business.
no, not at
Um,
all.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
So that sort of evolves and then grows into, where did you start to learn automation?
Well, yeah, so that's a good question. So when I had the swim school in the gym, Glenn, this is going back like 25 years before Facebook was even invented. But, we were very proactive online even back then. We were one of the first swim schools to ever have a Facebook profile. I built my own websites for the swim school. We were doing email marketing before it was called email marketing. So I've always been very proactive in using the right tools. And so what happened was I was speaking on stage somewhere in Australia for Mal Emery. And after that speaking engagement, someone came up to me and said, oh, look, they want some help with their sales and their business. And I said, yeah, well, I'm happy to do that. So I started to work with them, help them with their sales, help them with their business. And they came to me and said, hey, we've got this marketing automation tool. We can't figure it out. It's not working for us. Can you have a look at it? And so it was called Infusionsoft, and it still is called Infusionsoft today. And so I had a look at it, and I'd never seen it before, but I just went in there, and I've always had a good mind for building things out and doing that. I've always had a good mind for that. And so I looked at it and I thought, yeah, this makes sense. This is the logical reason that it goes there, and this is what we should do there. Anyway, fixed it all for them as part of the package that I was offering them. And they referred me to someone else who also had Infusionsoft. They referred me to someone else that also had Infusionsoft. Before I knew it, Glenn, I had 7 Infusionsoft clients that I was helping with Infusionsoft. I was not a certified partner. I'd never done an Infusionsoft course. And so I rang Infusionsoft up at that point and said, hey, is there some sort of course I should be doing? And they said, yeah, you got to go through Infusionsoft University at the time. And once you do a year of university, you got to do the partner program. And I said, listen, I've already got 7 clients. They're already paying me this much money every month. There's no way I'm going to have the time to do all of that. So they actually fast-tracked me back then through it. 1 week I did university, and then a week later I did the partner program. And so I was probably the only partner in the room that had 7 paying clients.
Yeah, most of them. They actually have a module these days that talks about how you go about getting clients.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So that automation software did really start to become very prolific. There's lots of different softwares you can use. And I guess it really doesn't matter what you use, but it is still thinking about, that's right, it's a tool. And I think some people get really hung up on, oh, that's what I should be using, or maybe it's this one. But of course, it's just another shiny object. Correct. If you think about just the process you have for bringing clients on board. What's your system for generating leads? What's your system for converting them? What's your system for getting them on board and payment? And how can you add value? And then how can you upsell them? That's all just part of a system, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I always say to people that strategies will trump tools every single day of the week. It's all about the strategy. What tool you use, it's irrelevant.
Wow, there's some really good nuggets there. So listen, I know a few people are jumping on board now. So if you've got questions, please type them in for Cameron, and we'll come back to them after, towards the end of the show. I'm going to move on now. Cameron, what was the biggest hurdle that you had in your business as you were growing? So you still probably had the swim school, the gym, and you're starting to 7 paying Infusionsoft sort of clients. What was the biggest challenge you've had in building businesses?
So I think the time, Glenn, as an entrepreneur, I always found it a struggle to have the time. And at that point, when we had 2 businesses plus a 3rd one on the way, we had 2 young children as well. Mm-hmm. And so it was the challenge of balancing, that work-life balance, if I can use that term. But what what I learned pretty quickly from that was to go back to my roots as a swimming coach and build a team. So what I did was I built a swim school team, I built a gym team, and then started to build my online team. So I went back, I was getting to a stage where I was turning all the wheels and doing all the plates and doing everything at once. And I thought, this is crazy. I'm going to burn out before I'm 30, right? And so I thought, well, what can I do differently? And again, I went back to my roots as a coach and thought, what did I do well as a coach? What I did well was I built teams. I wasn't known as a coach that just had one great swimmer. I was known as a coach that had a great team. And so I went back to build a team, and I spent 80% of my time on my top 20% of my leaders within each of my teams, so that those businesses could grow without me and I could get out of the way. So for one, that would be my biggest challenge, Glenn, coming to that point where I realized that I needed to build a successful team to do the work.
You mentioned a couple of things in there. Going back a little bit, I see a lot of people struggle with this, going, how am I going to create lead gen? Yet leads really automatically came to you as a result of doing such a great job with your previous client. And I was talking with someone the other day going, stop worrying about the lead gen. Focus on your existing client and do a damn good job with them, and they will do a better job spruiking you than you ever could. All right. And so that's how you got to 7 sort of clients. And then I guess for you, the other point that came up was building teams, which, having built several B&I chapters, I couldn't do all that myself. I needed to build a team. I definitely understand the advantages in that. We had the highest retention for many, many years, but it was only possible because I had a fantastic team. So I wasn't necessarily worried about the clients. I was worried about their education and how they were getting it, but it wasn't delivered through me. It had to be delivered by the team, because you can't do everything. Did you realize that with building the businesses, that you've got to get other people involved?
Yeah, you get that real quick.
So was it a challenge? What did you learn by building in teams in terms of experience and people?
Yeah, one of the things that I've always kept in the back of my mind was an old Brian Tracy quote, and that was hire slow and fire fast. Mm-hmm. And although that might sound a little bit hard, that's one thing that I've always learned in building teams, because having you could accidentally hire the wrong person. But you need to get them out of there really quickly if they're, a bad seed, in a good team. So that's one of my mantras. I've kind of, had to learn a couple of times. I've hired the wrong people, and being a soft-hearted type person, I've probably let them in too long and didn't get rid of them quicker. So I've made that mistake a couple of times over the years, and that would probably be my biggest lesson that I've learned about building teams.
Good one to learn. When you learn those lessons, then you can adapt and change them. All right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of the interview. Yep. In the promos, I've sort of said, how do people grow, that they can grow a business by 250% using a double approach sort of sword in their marketing. So tell us a little bit more about having an integrated marketing approach.
Yeah, so having an integrated marketing approach, you actually start with the end in mind, Glenn. So a lot of people, and you alluded to this with one of the stories you were sharing, you said, a person came to you and they were interested in lead gen. And you said, look, don't worry about the lead gen, focus on the service. And a lot of people do that, Glenn. They go, I need more leads, I've got to spend more money on Google Ads, or I need more leads, I've got to do some Facebook advertising, or I need more leads, I've got to do this, or I've got to build a funnel, I've got to do this, right? But the challenge is, Glenn, they don't have a back end ready for those leads. And so my integrated approach when working with clients is actually, what's the back end? So we look at sales first before we look at marketing. So to have an integrated approach, you've got to be really serious about both sales and marketing. You can't just be focused on lead gen, because lead gen is only a very small part of marketing, right? Mm-hmm. It's just the very, very top bit where all the leads come in. And you know what? Not all of those leads are qualified. So if you're spending all of your time on lead gen, it's actually going to hurt your business and hurt your profitability, right? So an integrated marketing approach takes both sales and marketing in together. And I always focus on sales first. So when we look at sales, we look at the sales team. What's your sales team like? And even if you're just a single entrepreneur, you're a coach, you are the sales team. So how can we get you to sell better, right? And then we look at sales tools. What tools do you have that's going to allow you to sell at a faster velocity? So do you have PDFs you can share? Do you have case studies you can share? Do you have testimonies to share? What do you have in your toolkit that allows you to pop an email template into an email that's going to allow you to sell at a faster velocity, right? So by
can I just stop you there? Sorry, I don't want to get you out of flow, but for a lot of people that are on this particular Facebook group, they don't see the PDFs and the case studies as really part of their arsenal in terms of their toolkit.
Yep.
But so explain a little bit deeper in how does that actually help them sell things?
Right, because so when a lead comes in, Glenn, like they don't know about you, right? And they don't really understand, how you solve their problem. They might be shopping around at 3 or 4 other providers, okay? Mm-hmm. So sales tools like case studies, testimonies, and things like that, whether it's a PDF, whether it's in an email, whether it's a couple of videos that you send someone, the power of those are in social proof. It's about showing people that you've already got results. And so because of the results that you've got for other people, that tells them that they can also trust you to get results for them. But even more important than that, things like case studies and testimonies, what other people say about you is so much more powerful than what you say about yourself. So that builds that social proof. It builds that that trust with that potential client that's about to spend some money with you.
Boom. That's it there. So if you've got all these, even if it's just organized in different folders, so that when someone comes up and if you don't have an automated system, you're just sort of saying, yep, no problems, I'll send that off to you. Each time you're dropping what I call, if you can imagine someone in a rice paddy with one of those bamboo stakes along and out to each arm, they've got a bucket on either side. And in the left-hand side, you've got the yes bucket, and the right-hand bucket, you've got no buckets. Every time you're sending them a PDF or a case study or a video, it's more drips going in the yes bucket. And every time that they learn from outside influences or something else coming in, that goes to drop in the no bucket. And you're wanting to do is to get more in the yes bucket, so they just go, okay, Cam, we'll hire you.
That's right.
That's exactly what you're trying to do. And so that is fast-tracking that particular process and getting you the sale. Okay, great.
And here's something to add to that, Glenn. Like what you'll find is that so many of your competitors, for people who are listening today, so many of your competitors are just focused on marketing. They're just focused on lead gen. They're actually burning their leads, right? Because they're not nurturing and looking after the leads that do come in. Like if you're listening to this, you don't need more leads, right? You need to get better at conversions. Like you don't need 100 new clients to make $1 million, right? So it's really important that you focus on sales. So you've got to focus on your sales team. You've got to train them. You've got to focus on your sales tools. You've got to have them. And you've got to have sales automation that allows you to sell at a faster velocity and automate some of that process, okay? Now, the last thing I want to talk about sales before we move into marketing, Glenn, is you've got to make sure that your sales and marketing are aligned. Now, if it's you really should look at that once a week and go, okay, what am I doing in sales? What am I doing in marketing? How can I bring those two together? And by having a sales pipeline, Glenn, by having a process that allows you to track where people are in the deal stages or the opportunity stages in your business, allows you to make better marketing decisions. Now, if you have a sales team, so maybe you've got 20 people working for you or 10 people working for you, some of those people are in sales, some are in admin, and some are in marketing. What you should do on a weekly basis is bring both your sales teams and your marketing teams together and have smarketing meetings, right? That's a sales and marketing meeting. And what you want to find out is what feedback can the sales team give you about the conversations they're having with prospects and contacts and clients and customers that you can give to the marketing people to create better marketing assets for you, right? And so that's how you integrate that approach. So you work on your sales first, with your teams, your tools, your automation, and having meetings with your sales team and bringing sales and marketing together so that you can increase your marketing ROI.
Hey, everybody, I just want you to smash the like button now. If, one, you've never heard of smarketing, because I never have heard of smarketing. That's a great one. But how often have you actually been carrying out a job or a task and you've thought, you know what, it'd be really good if this was happening, or they would take on this approach. And so that's exactly what Cameron's talking about. People who are at the front line, the salespeople, hear stuff all the time. How good would it be if they would give that feedback to the marketing team, which would then have a much more tailored sort of approach to helping the sales team, because they're really working hand in hand, right? So what a clever idea of just getting those two people together just to even talk, let alone because they're going to build up the relationships and start sharing anyway, and you're going to get better results. You'll start to notice that in your return on investment.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. That's fantastic, Cam. Thanks, mate. So let's see if we can go to some of the questions. I'll just open up Facebook. We got a couple of people in there at the moment. But, here we go. All right. So we had a couple of people sort of say, hey, play to your strengths. That was great. I just like to read the names before I drag them across. Where are we? Both live here. Okay, so Pip. This one, how do we show? Okay. Pip, you're sort of saying play to your strengths. Absolutely. You know, I'm crap at about 97% of things.
Yeah, we all are.
But it actually takes a while for you to admit that to yourself. Yeah. And this is what made me focus on teams. Once I identified that I was really good at building teams and actually building relationships, that meant that I needed to think about all the other things that I was terrible at and bring people who were good at admin, that were good at accounts. And that's where that mindset went to, these would just make external people. Now you're a CMO, all right? The Chief Marketing Officer for businesses that are turning over $1 million, all right? And that's the way they see you. You don't work for them, but you're their chief person for doing that, aren't you? You work virtually for them.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So who mentions love it? Pip again. We must have been dropping a few mind bombs for you that really worked for you. So let's talk about this one. What's a decentralized command? Pip, if you just jump online, just share a little bit more about that. I'm not really sure what that is. Can you remember that?
I've never heard of that. That's a very interesting term, though. I do like it, decentralized command. So maybe, if it's centralized command, maybe you're running it. So maybe she means decentralized, like you're away from the command center, maybe.
Now, when you grew the business up to, say, the swim school, what sort of marketing were you using if the internet wasn't around?
Yeah, well, when we first started, the internet wasn't around, so you'll love this story. We used to send emails out through Outlook. And we've got to remember, Glenn, and a lot of people might not remember this, but before email marketing even existed, before there was even an app for you to do 1,000 people all at once, we used to get our database from Excel, and I used to pay my team members to upload 30 people at a time in an Outlook email, and then we'd send those people a weekly email. And we would do that for 2,000 contacts, Glenn. Because at that point, you could only get 30 in an Outlook message as a PCC. And I just pay someone all day because I could see the value in that. No one else was doing it. My competitors never knew how I was doing the marketing. They were spending ads on yellow pages. They were doing ads in the radio and newspaper. And here I was covertly doing email marketing, right? And we started doing our own website. So back then I got really cluey about SEO. So we always came up first once Google came out and people were looking for it. And so we were always proactive about that. At one point we were doing lesson sales online, so people could pay for their swimming lessons online. This is when e-commerce first come out. We were doing that many sales online that my staff begged me after 2 years to stop it, because when a sale came through online, they had to then marry it up to the physical person in the swim school. And so they were like, can you just stop it? We're getting too many sales online. It's taking too long to keep up with the money coming in. So we had to key in online sales.
I laugh about it because I remember talking to one of my friends once, and he sort of said, what are you doing today? And I said, I'm processing BNI applications. And he said, what does that mean? I said, well, it means I have to type in all the numbers into, a little computer, and then they deduct $1,000 from the member. And they said, oh, wow, that sounds like a great day. And I said, yeah, it was the first couple of times. And now, it's no longer exciting for me. I wanted to try and automate that particular process, because I recognize that, you could pay someone $5 to do that particular task, and my skills were much better at doing something else. And whilst it was very romantic to sort of going, wow, money's coming in, it loses its flavor, and you think, well, what else can I do now? What else can I make it easier for them to pay us and get the business to grow? Because you just want to help more people.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so Rebecca has a question here. This is Rebecca Lyle. Hey, good to see you online, Rebecca. It says, I find service-based businesses like mine are harder to market than product-based businesses. Now, Rebecca's business is she helps people write resumes to get jobs. So how would someone use, an automated or a sales and marketing sort of approach to help a business like that?
Yeah, look, and I don't want to kind of, challenge Rebecca on this, but I've always run service businesses, Glenn. I've never had a product-based business, so I'm actually the opposite of that. So I would say, Rebecca, it's just about positioning yourself as the expert in the field. When I go on LinkedIn, am I going to find you as the expert in the field on LinkedIn? Are you on LinkedIn every day doing videos, adding content, adding value? Do you have like a dozen of your best articles on LinkedIn? Are you on Facebook a couple of times a week speaking on Facebook about, resume writing and positioning people and how people can get better jobs in tough times and things like that? So, I would look at, the sales, like what's the back end process, make sure you got your tools, your training and your systems in place, and then bring that into your marketing so that when people do come in, you've got that covered. But I wouldn't have a problem selling a service-based business. I think it's all about positioning and brand and content.
Here's what I learned during that particular process was that I used to be really scared about putting my IP online because my competitors, and Rebecca, that might be you. I've seen sort of thing, I saw a funny post. Rebecca had her competitor once ring up and pretend to be a dodgy customer sort of thing. What they didn't realize was that they rang many, many years earlier, and Rebecca stored their phone number in her phone. So when they rang, she knew exactly who it was. But I used to worry about putting my IP up there. What I quickly learnt, Cameron, tell me different, is that people just don't know how to implement what I teach them. So I can put it up online and I can do videos on it. They still worry about, and they still need help. That's where I get hired to implement a referral program into the business. Would you agree?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Don't be stingy with your sharing when you get online.
Yeah, and the other thing, Glenn, is, they need help with the implementation, but people love to do business with people, so, someone's going to see Rebecca and go, I love her. Like, I love what she's talking about. And regardless of what a competitor does or charges or copies, they just want to do business with Rebecca because they resonate with Rebecca, right? Just like there's people that are watching you, Glenn, going, you know what? I need to reach out to that referral guy and I need that system that he's talking about in my business, right?
Yeah, this is where you're starting to see a lot more people become the brand. All right.
Yeah.
There are plenty of referral programs you can buy out there. There's only one Glenn Kirkwood. All right. So if you want the way that we do it, you're gonna have to buy me. Or you want the way that Cameron does it. Now, I use Infusionsoft, right? And there was a time where I thought that I was going to be a coach around everything. And now I've really niched down. So I've taken people along and gone to Cameron's workshops. So I think that one time when you run it in Parramatta. Yeah, that's right, in Sydney. And I still had a ton of information that I learnt from them. So you can't be all things to all people.
That's right.
Let me just see if anybody's written. This is Rebecca again. She said, good point, Glenn. I'm currently running a campaign where I write articles giving tips and resume writing. That is working well because I'm giving away my IP, but they can't implement it. Yeah. And I guess that's exactly what you've got to work out. Where is the money for you, sort of thing? And if you've got your back end sales, as Cameron's talking about, that'll be covered anyway. So,
and just another little thing for Rebecca, like if there was 10 steps for someone, writing a resume and getting a job, you're not going to like give away all the 10 steps, right, in your content marketing, but you want to give them the first, say, 4 or 5. So a metaphor that I give people, like if I was a triathlon coach and I wanted to attract Ironman triathletes, I can teach people about swimming, cycling, or running, but I might just focus on cycling. And so I might focus on how to take 30 minutes off your Ironman bike time. So that's not going to help them get a faster time in swimming, cycling, running, sleeping, resting, nutrition, and all of that produces a good time. But it is going to be helpful and help them take 30 minutes off their bike time. Better tire selection, more aerodynamic helmet, right energy systems, training in, all that sort of stuff, right? So that's what people like Rebecca should be doing with their marketing and their content marketing, is just picking one little thing and helping people get a solution just on that one thing.
Correct. But what it does do is it starts to eliminate a lot of the competition, doesn't it? Because they feel like an attraction towards you, and then they start going down the pathway of gaining Cameron as the only person that I'm going to use, and they just keep on just getting those yes drips in their bucket, sort of going, you know what? And at some point they will. Now, if you look at some people's cycles, it might be 2 or 3 years that they're in that nurturing sort of phase before they buy your product. But every time you give them one of those value bombs, it removes competition, and that's where you want it. So that when it comes down to the price point and the please sign here, they are no longer thinking about, well, I can get something similar for this amount and they're cheaper. Because they can't. They've identified that you are the only person now, and this is what you're charging, so that's what I got to pay.
You'd be surprised, Glenn, how quickly price evaporates once positioning is right and value is produced.
Correct. It's the laziest form of sales, coming in at undercutting someone or sort of saying this is what we offer, because you haven't even established what they determine to be good value.
Yeah, that's right.
I always remember, so I drive a really nice sports car, and I remember sitting down with someone and standing up front of my physio, and out came my physio, and he said, oh, speak to this guy, Glenn, because he can help you with your marketing. And I looked at the guy, and he had all those tire brands on across his shirt. And I said, oh, you obviously sell tires. He said, yeah, are you in the market? And I said, well, look, I just recently bought some 01s, I think they were. And he said, oh, right, okay, I think I know what sort of car that do. You drive a Porsche? And I said, yes. And he said, you know what, we could have saved you money. And I said, so let me just stop you right there. If you think I drive that car to save money, you got rocks in your head. It's a money, a money pit.
It's like bring on another 1,000.
That's right. The mechanic sees me coming, goes, thank you.
Right.
If he had said something like, we can make this like a 911, I'm definitely interested. Or we can make this go around corners faster, I'm definitely hooked then. And I would have paid whatever it was.
Yeah,
but it came in at price, and I just thought, I didn't buy this to save money. It's ridiculous. I think we've got time for one more. I'll bring in one more, and then we okay. Ross says, hey, first of all, Ross, thanks very much for clicking that link and allowing your photograph to come through. It's much easier and it looks much better. For those people that came through that didn't see a picture, it's just a little, you've just got to tick this StreamYard. So, Ross, I love what you said about marrying the sales team with the marketing team, and the salespeople who would bitch about their marketing team never consulted with the sales team as they would be needed and would be relevant to the marketing, and vice versa. I agree. So I developed a program called, oh, well, that's a shameless plug for you, Ross. That's great. We're going to have Ross in a couple of weeks. If you had a question, that'd be great. Okay.
Oh, mate, tell me when Ross is coming on, and I'll do a shameless plug on his one.
Perfect. I love that. Yeah, terrific. Well, Cameron, listen, you dropped so many marketing and sales bombs on this particular show that I actually wasn't expecting. Really fun show. Thanks very much for that. Marketing can be fun. But for someone to get in contact with you, what's the best way? What's your target market that you're really trying to focus on?
Yeah, look, we help entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, industry experts, or micro businesses with a coaching program. So if you're at that level where you can't afford someone to do it all for you, we can coach you on that. So if you go to camroberts.com.au and reach out to me, I can help you with that. And then, of course, we have our done-for-you services. I own an agency, Bubblegum Marketing. And as you said, Glenn, I'm a VCMO, a Virtual Chief Marketing Officer, that works with $1 million plus companies and businesses as well.
Okay. So I'm going to put two particular links down below. The first one is if you're serious about improving your marketing and getting an increase in your sales, then I'm going to get you to have a bit of a chat with Cameron, and I'll put down his unique link there. And if you're not ready, then perhaps there's a free or Cameron's made available a free resource that is 10 days of emails, and you can get an understanding of what Cameron's talking about by what we just shared today. Can you just want to tell them a little bit more about the 10 emails that are going to come out?
Yeah, so it's a free resource called Instant Customers that I've created. So it's an instant download with some checklists that you can go through, and it talks about the difference between sales and marketing. It talks about the different types of marketing that you can deploy, and it comes with a 10-day email course. So nothing spammy, but just walking you through that Instant Customers journey and walking you through each checklist. So you can go to the links that Glenn puts in below this training or in below this stream and find out more information. Head over there.
Perfect. Thanks. Now, listen, I can promise you that everything that Cameron does put out is not spammy, and every one of those ones I've enjoyed reading and have always got something from them. All right. A lot of people sometimes just get you on a list and then you're just bombarded. This is not what happens here.
Right.
And he's very, very compliant. If you want to not be on his list, that's fine. Just get yourself off the list, but do yourself a favor and certainly get the free resources that he talks about.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you very much. We've gone a little bit over, I know, and thank you so much to all of our wonderful people that have come on. It's you really that help make the show. So I love the fact that you've come on here at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday. You give up a little bit of your time, but hopefully you're learning some stuff. This particular show is about helping you run a better business. So when I saw Cameron was available, I knew, bang, I've got to have this guy on the show because he's all about automation, right? And getting you to be a more profitable business. There's a lot of coaches out there. There's a lot of fake coaches out there, and I know them. And they can't run a business. I can tell you what. Cameron can actually run a bricks and mortar business and an online business. So if you're looking at hiring or having a chat with someone, Cameron's definitely a great person to start the conversation with. Okay, thanks very much for Cameron. All right, I'm Glenn Kirkwood, aka That Referral Guy, signing off with a reminder to make, build, and share connections. And I'll see you next time.